It's Veterans Day, of which I am one, and we're just glad to salute the veterans who have served our country in various arduous positions in war and peace all over the world. And we have two special guests in our audience. They're brothers who are both veterans of World War II. And gentlemen, we're glad to have you with us. And one, Jim Evans, is 96 years old, and his brother Sam is 93. And we'll be telling you their compelling story of sacrifice and service to our country.
That's right. But first in the news, the Republican presidential candidates took on the economy, foreign policy, and each other as they had some very sharp disagreements in last night's presidential debate. David Brody brings us the story from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
You were against putting troops on
the GOP candidates sparred in their most substantive debate so far in this election cycle, with the economy taking center stage, from discussing the tax code.
The current system isn't fair. Washington is fundamentally corrupt. There are more words in the IRS code than there are in the Bible, and not a one of them is as good.
To building a stronger middle class.
For the life of me, I don't know why we have stigmatized vocational education. Welders make more money than philosophers. We need more welders and less philosophers.
The biggest clash came when Rand Paul questioned Marco Rubio's desire to push for a larger child tax credit, in addition to more defense spending.
The point that I'd like to make about the tax credits, we have to decide what is conservative and what isn't conservative. Is it fiscally conservative to have $1 trillion expenditure?
And yes, I do want to rebuild the American military.
How is it conservative?
I know that Rand is a committed isolationist. I'm not. I believe the world is a stronger and a better place when the United States is the strongest military power in the world.
Marco, how is it conservative? How is it conservative to add $1 trillion expenditure for the federal government?
There were also disagreements on topics like immigration. Trump wants to deport all illegal immigrants.
We either have a country or we don't have a country. We are a country of laws. Going to have to go out, and they'll come back, but they're going to have to go out, and hopefully they get back.
But if people think that we are going to ship 11 million people who are law-abiding, who are in this country, and somehow pick them up at their house and ship them out of Mexico, to Mexico, think about the families. Think about the children. It's a silly argument. It's not an adult argument. It makes no sense.
I can say.
On foreign policy, Trump believes we should stay out of Syria and let Vladimir Putin and Russian forces fight over there.
We can't continue to be the policeman of the world.
Donald is wrong on this. He is absolutely wrong on this. We're not going to be the world's policeman, but we sure as heck better be the world's leader. There's a huge difference where without us leading, voids are filled.
Carly Fiorina took the opportunity to say how she would show Putin America's muscle.
I would start rebuilding the 6th Fleet right under his nose, rebuilding the missile defense program in Poland right under his nose. I would conduct very aggressive military exercises in the Baltic states so that he understood we would protect our NATO allies and would-be allies.
As for top-tier candidate Ben Carson, he addressed the swirling controversy over the media vetting process and how they're trying to find any little thing to take him down.
I have no problem with being vetted. What I do have a problem with is being lied about. But, you know, when I look at somebody like Hillary Clinton, who sits there and tells her daughter and a government official that, no, this was a terrorist attack, and then tells everybody else that it was a video. Where I came from, they call that a lie.
Now that this debate in Milwaukee is complete, the next one comes more than a month from now in Las Vegas in mid-December. And in this presidential race that's turned into a soap opera, that gives plenty of time for a lot of twists and turns. David Brody, CBN News in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Thanks, David. I don't know how many of you watched that debate, but I think that the guys from Fox and the editor of the Wall Street Journal were superb moderators. They brought out a lot of substance, and they gave the guys a chance to really discuss these issues that are very important to the American people. And I frankly think all of the Republicans did well. I think as a group, they acquitted themselves very admirably. And so what the American people are saying here is a team of men and one woman who are capable of being the next president or vice president or secretary of state or whatever. And I think the brand of republicanism is going up because of debates like this. The one with the CNBC's was a disaster, but this one was very well done, and I commend them. So on next Wednesday, by the way, we'll have our second interview in our series of discussions with presidential candidates. It'll be my pleasure to talk to my good friend of many years, John Kasich, and he will sit down with me at Regent University in front of a live audience, and we'll bring you highlights on next Thursday's 700 Club. We've also invited other candidates as well, and I think along the way, I know Cruz and Rubio will be with us, and others as well. Well, in other news, if a Republican wins the White House, he or she will have to deal with President Obama's actions on climate change. Ephraim Graham has that story.
Pat, President Obama appears to be looking to secure his legacy on climate change, and rejecting the Keystone XL oil pipeline from Canada to the U.S. is his most recent step to lead that effort against global warming. Caitlin Burke has that story.
It's a decision 7 years in the making.
The State Department has decided that the Keystone XL Pipeline would not serve the national interests of the United States. I agree with that decision.
President Obama said he would block the pipeline if it would make climate change worse. His administration determined that it wouldn't. He blocked it anyway because of the perception that it would carry dirty oil.
Shipping dirtier crude oil into our country would not increase America's energy security. What has increased America's energy security is our strategy over the past several years to reduce our reliance on dirty fossil fuels from unstable parts of the world.
With a powerful international climate treaty set to be finalized early next month, the president appears to be trying to lock in his environmental legacy. Some of Obama's other executive steps to reduce greenhouse gases include his limits on carbon dioxide emissions from U.S. power plants and ramping up fuel efficiency standards for cars and trucks. But those regulations and the treaty itself could face a difficult future in a Republican-controlled Congress, which is concerned about how they hurt the economy. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
So, Pat, was this good news for the environment?
Oh, it's terrible news for the environment. If you really care about the environment and not some photo op, the Canadians are going to produce those oil sands, those tar sand oil. And what are they going to do with them? They were going to ship them on a secure pipe down to the Gulf of Mexico, where United States refineries, using the most up-to-date technology, would then refine them into gasoline and other products. But that's not going to happen because the president wants to be looked at as a climate warrior. So the Canadians are going to say, okay, we're going to put this crude not in a pipeline, but in rail cars, and we're going to ship those rail cars hundreds and hundreds of miles through cities, through towns, possibility that they'll have a wreck or blow up, and we'll put them through there, and then we'll put them onto freighters, tankers, out in the Pacific Ocean, and they will be shipped across the water to China, where the crude will be processed in very dirty Chinese plants, which will be spewing out noxious gases to the air, which we will one day breathe. Now, that's what the president is doing, and this business about him being a climate warrior is utter nonsense. This is strictly for the media. It is a hype, just like that stuff that's going on in the Middle East. It is not for reality. It is for press release, and maybe that guy that stands at the podium and gives those crazy justifications for the administration's actions. Maybe he'll have something to talk about, but I think he'd be holding his breath and thinking, they're making me lie, but I've got to do it because I'm getting a paycheck. Ephraim.
Pat, today, some long-awaited good news in the fight against trafficking. A national report card shows more states are getting A's and B's this year in recognition of new anti-trafficking laws. As Heather Sells shows us, those laws have improved dramatically in just the last 4 years.
Shared Hope International began grading states on their anti-trafficking laws in 2011. Simply put, the state's bombed, with failing grades going to more than half. In just 4 years, state lawmakers have responded, passing laws that impose heavy penalties on both traffickers and buyers. This year, Shared Hope gave half the state's A's and B's, and not one state failed.
A lot of that is due to grassroots activities. Public awareness has increased significantly over the years.
Two bright spots include North Dakota and Montana. In recent years, the booming oil industry brought in more than 100,000 workers to the Bakken region, and crime spiked in both states. That led Shared Hope to fail North Dakota and Montana back in 2011. Today, their grades have improved to a B and an A.
With improved laws and greater enforcement, buyers and traffickers become aware that this is a much riskier endeavor to engage in, and it will deter demand and trafficking.
What's still needed across the board, help for victims, especially in the areas of protection and services. Shared Hope wants all states to strive for A's and B's so that traffickers will not be able to simply move their operations. Heather Sells, CBN News.
And here tomorrow on the 700 Club, Heather will have a report on the shelters here in America that are helping victims of trafficking. Pat?
Well, I appreciate that very much. And listen, Regent University has got a Center for Global Justice training lawyers how to deal with these things in the courts, not only in America, but overseas. You see, the thing that we have done, the trafficker takes these poor girls and puts them into these situations, forces them, beats them, starves them, abuses them, and then puts them out on the street to sell themselves. And the police pick up the girls and put them in prison. They've already been in prison. And the thing that is needed, and that's what this report shows, is the people who need to get serious penalties are the traffickers. I have no patience whatsoever for these global traffickers. They're obscene, they're vicious, they're evil, and if we could do so legally, I think there'd be no compunction in my part whatsoever in gunning them down like dirty dogs. They're awful. What they do to these women is beyond belief, and it is strictly for money, and it turns out that selling a girl over and over again is a whole lot more profitable than selling heroin or cocaine or crack or any of these other drugs. So they go to prostitution and they import these girls. And I remember I was over in Thailand and went to an orphanage that we were helping and met a young girl. She was about 17, and she was there. And I said, "What's the deal?" Well, the traffickers would come up from Bangkok, and they would offer the parents a color TV set or a refrigerator in exchange for their daughter. And that's what, and she knew that they were going to sell her, and so she ran away and went to this place where she could be cared for. But that's the kind of thing we're dealing with, a refrigerator or a color TV in exchange for a human being. Ephraim?
Heartbreaking. In health news, another warning about how deadly obesity can be. Obese children as young as age 8 can develop signs of heart abnormalities. The lead author of the study says that could increase their chances for an early death when they become adults. Although it is possible those problems might be reversible as the kids grow up, it's possible there could be permanent damage as well. Health Day reports the study also suggested obese children even younger than 8 could have signs of heart disease too. Pat, this is still another story that shows just how important it is that we as parents watch what our children eat.
You know, the thing of it is they don't watch, they stuff the kids. I'm a good mother because I have forced 2 bowls of Fruit Loops down my son's throat, and therefore he is going to be healthy. Well, don't believe it. Listen, parents, that kid can't eat anything that you don't give him. He can't get in the car and drive to the store. If he's 6 years old, he's yours, and you could decide what he eats. And all you've got to do, I know my son Gordon's children, they love fruit. and they get fresh fruit, and they get vegetables, and that kind of thing. I mean, it's so healthy. And kids will love this stuff. They aren't born wanting junk food, but we train them to like junk food. And then we think what good parents we are. No way.